actually, the folks who wrote in, even if they did speak, but who wrote in advance, about 60% of them were in opposition to the name change or want a countywide vote. 38% are in support and maybe have some thoughts about a new name. And then there's just a very small parameter of folks who they didn't weigh in with an opinion at all. And then when you include the folks in the room, 13 of which were in opposition, 29 of which spoke in support of the name change. Overall, from everybody we heard from, 54% of folks oppose changing the name of the college and or feel it should be a countywide vote. 45% of folks who've either written in or spoken tonight are in support of the name change and would like to continue discussing potential new names for the college. That is it. I'd like to wrap up public comment and move on to the rest of our agenda. If there are any, shall we move forward? I would like to invite folks, I'll call on you in just a second, Amy, to please stick around and see what the rest of a typical Cabrillo College governing board meeting is like. You might find it fascinating. You might go, oh, they do things other than deal with this name change. We in fact do. Amy, you had your hand up?
Well, because this is being recorded, there was a statement from a group of Asian Americans that was published in Lookout, and there were at least 20 people who are not on this list who you could add to this list, because if they had known that they wouldn't be counted, right, they would have wanted to have been counted because they republished the statement in Lookout together, and we took a lot of time.
If you could email it to Ronette, we'll include it. That'd be great. Thank you. And anybody else who is here within earshot, if you didn't submit comments or speak them tonight, feel free. Item 4, adoption of tonight's agenda. I think I heard it first from, was that Trustee Cuevas and a second from Trustee Zeal? Yes. We don't need a roll call for that, do we? All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, right?
No.
Okay. It was unanimous. So I'm going to move on to action items. And our very first action item is the deferral recommendation by the college name exploration subcommittee. And let me start by opening up for a motion to defer selecting a new name for the college at this time so that the name exploration subcommittee may explore options for and recommend how we better assess and engage the wider community on a naming timeline and process that unifies rather than divides the greater college community. In line with this motion, the subcommittee intends to return to the board with a recommended course of action by November 6, 2023. Is there a first?
So moved.
Second.
First by Trustee Rothwell, second by Trustee Zeal. And is there anybody who would like to open it up for discussion? Trustee Trujillo.
Well, 3 years ago, I ran on the issue that we needed to change the name of the college. And guess what? I was told it was political suicide, and I was told that I would lose, and I won with more than 60% of the vote in District 7, including all of northern Monterey County and half of Watsonville. Folks, I'm not at all torn about why this needs to be done. It needs to be done. It's overdue by decades. I did the research 31 years ago. I was a teacher at Allison High School. I was asked by the assistant superintendent of Salinas High School District to write a Mexican American history course. And you know what I found, along with Manuel and I? We found that over and over and over again, Cabrillo's name came up with the almost unbelievable horrors that he committed. Rape, using women as his soldiers for their pleasure, spread syphilis, he spread measles, he spread smallpox. He took everything from Indians who practiced potlatch, which means to give things away. The man was a complete, well, he was even worse than Donald Trump, as you can imagine. That's pretty bad. This man not only did not belong on the name of this college, he doesn't belong on the name of a freeway or anything else. So I'm going to ask that we shelve this and table this motion to another time, and that we announce who actually did win the contest. We know who won. Adam, you made it very clear it was going to be announced this evening. So did you, Matt. That doesn't mean necessarily we have to approve that name, but the public has a right to know. We conducted an election, and there were many, many hundreds of votes. We need to name who that was, how many votes that name choice got. And I think we should table this motion, to be honest with you, because I am willing to take another month or so, and I'm willing to have people confirm whether they are in favor of this name, that the majority of those voting online want it. But I'm not in favor of delaying this. I agree with Daniel Dodge Sr. Thank you, Daniel. I agree we shouldn't delay it anymore, at least not more than a month. Thank you.
Trustee Trujillo, are you asking for an amendment?
Yes, I am. May I make the amendment? I'll make it now. That this be tabled until next month, that we announce who won the contest, okay? Not that it's going to be the final say-so as to it will be the name, but we need to let the public know. We promised that we would have the winner of the contest online. We'd have the name. I think we should be able to do that.
Right.
That's the motion.
If you're making a motion to table supersedes everything. We would need to vote on that motion, assuming it gets a second.
All right.
So you're motioning to table the deferral.
Yes, until our meeting in October, September.
Okay, so is there a second to table the motion to defer? Is there anybody who is seconding this motion?
The motion fails if it doesn't get a second.
Okay, I'm calling time, nobody is raising their hand. So we're not tabling this motion. Is there anybody who wants to further discuss the motion, which includes entertaining an amendment?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Trustee Trujillo indicated that the committee did you guys come up with a name? I know that you're deferring it, but did the subcommittee have a name in mind?
So, no. What we did was we learned that through the surveys, both in the forums and online, that Aptos rose to the top of the list. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that was the recommendation of the name selection task force. It was the most popular choice, and there was a lot of discussion around, from the task force members, some surprise that that was the top choice, especially through the surveys, because as we were in a lot of the...
Stand up for you? We can't
Sure.
hear it, really.
I'll speak as loudly as I can. Some of the conversation in the name selection task force meeting on July 28th included some surprise that in the surveys, the name Aptos was at the top, because during some of the community forums, as people were discussing names, there was a clear, large number of folks who changed their mind from Aptos to a different name afterwards. So what we saw in tally numbers didn't equate or didn't match up what people's experiences were in those community forums. That's part of the larger discussion and why the task force, it didn't actually select a new name, but what we can say and what I believe Trustee Trujillo is getting at is we did conclude a survey, and the survey did show results. I'm just not sure those results are as scientific and as sound as they could be.
I have another question.
Sure.
The name selection subcommittee,
And would you like her to say
am I
that?
loud enough?
Spelled it out.
Use your classroom.
Okay, my classroom voice,
Use your
okay.
classroom voice, Martha.
The name selection subcommittee, you've indicated before when they've met, but can you just clarify? You met 5 times, the subcommittee. Can you clarify the day, the time of the day that the subcommittee met, just to clarify?
They met on Fridays from 12 to 1 or 2 o'clock.
12,
Yeah.
12, noon, so noon
From
to
in
2?
April through the last meeting on July 28th.
I'm sorry, clarification, task force.
The task force met
Yes.
5 times. We scheduled virtual meetings at noon to 1:30 for 4 of the meetings, so that people could do that on their lunch hour, whatever, that was fine. But the last meeting on the 28th went till 2 o'clock.
And I have another question. Would it be open for additional individuals if they wanted to join the subcommittee to have an opportunity to join? Or it would just be with the 24 individuals that have been on the committee?
The subcommittee, the task force are the 24.
Okay, the task force.
Adam, myself, and previously a student had been the subcommittee. I think the notion and why we are asking for a deferral is to have an opportunity to have more voices in that subcommittee to kind of rethink some of the processes and move in a recommendation. So that issue is on the table. It's something that that's one of the things that we think about in terms of giving us a little time to think about what might be a better way to do this. What might improve access and conversation, even though I will say, as I said earlier, the task force included people on that task force who were not in favor of the change and had changed their minds. So that was one body, there were subcommittees another, and clearly Adam and I came forward and our student with a recommendation for change. But we're open to thinking about should there be a larger subcommittee? So that's
Rachel?
I'd like to speak in favor of this motion. The process did not engage the community. We voted in November, and that's the first time the community received the report, and within a half an hour, we voted for it. There was no time within the delivery of the report to the election, and the community reacted because they weren't engaged. I would suggest that if we're doing our education properly, we have an opportunity, as Christina said, people who went through the process changed their mind. You do not change people's minds by being bullies and insulting them. We have to go back to the education of what we stand for and where we're going. So I support this pause.
Any other questions or comments? And if not, we've got a motion on the floor that's not been amended. And we can take, is it a roll call vote?
No.
Okay.
Can the task force meet in the evening, like Monday? I know that we have students, we have staff that will.
the subcommittee or where's the task force?
Well, and right now, so the subcommittee exists to drive the planning. It really, believe it or not, our function all along has been less about getting to a solution or an outcome, and more making sure we're bringing people in to help guide us in that way. So the next iteration, we may call on the same task force members, we may add to those, people may drop out. That's yet to be determined. I think you're bringing up some ideas. I think what I'm hearing is access.
Access.
Yep.
People work
And
from 12 to 1:30. I mean, I'm a teacher, I only have 30 minutes of that to grab lunch and then return to the classroom. I, as a teacher, wouldn't have been able to participate.
So if,
So I'm being very mindful to be, this is a community college. We need to be able to have everyone's voice. It's critical. That's why from the beginning of the meeting, I was like 2 minutes. Public comment usually is 3 minutes. We all have a voice, and like we saw, people were running out of time. And it's critical that everyone's voice, this is a community college, and we had a very robust conversation, and it's important to be able to have that. There was a lot of discussion that things that were raised, great ideas, having indigenous names and buildings. Many courses, you know, that do not include Native American, we should. Stan Rushworth was my instructor. So, so it's really important to me. This is a community college. We should include all cultures, not, you know, in addition to indigenous names being on the buildings, it should be all cultures and having additional stuff here. So for me, I've listened to the community. In Watsonville, there's people that are opposed and support, people that are in, you know, wishing for it to be on the ballot. So I'm very mindful. I'm taking it all in.
And I think your point is the one is well taken, and that is why we were proposing that we defer the decision now, because we're clearly in sync with the idea that there needs to be more access. And we're open to the whole notion of timing and who's involved and how that's done. But we haven't come up, but we just want time to explore that more and make a recommendation. So we're on the same page with you on that, on the access issue.
I feel like that, I agree with what Christine is saying. I think we were explicit in this recommendation. It's to better engage the wider community, and access is at the heart of that. So I hope that's coming through.
I feel the need to speak up in light of the task force work and having been embedded in that work with Adam and Christina. The 24 people who served on that task force volunteered to participate. They were representative of the county in demographics, where they come from, walk of life, the viewpoints that they brought. There were some who were in favor of the name change, some who opposed it. They also volunteered knowing that the meetings would take place from 12 to 1:30 on these various Fridays. So when we did the initial survey with folks and asked for their input on potential names, they volunteered to participate in this process, and they knew that those dates would be those Friday afternoon meetings. And I want to honor their work. I think one of the things that Christina and Adam would both amplify and agree with is that having put in 15 to 20 hours of work now in this effort, with a lot of dialogue, respectful dialogue, and conversation back and forth, pro and con on the various names, they did amazing work. And one of the downsides, I think, of the way that the work has been criticized in the media is a failure to recognize the work that that team put in. And I just want to make sure that people on the board and in the audience understand that community volunteers who were representative of this community did good work for this college. And I don't want to leave this room not honoring that work, quite frankly.
Trustee Trujillo?
The reason I'm going to vote no is because those 24 people who gave their time, their effort, and no money at all, passed their hands, worked very hard to come up with 5 decent names. The fact that we're going to toss those 5 names pretty much in the dumper, basically, if we decide not to proceed with this, because Aptos College did win the name contest, it was an election conducted as it was supposed to be, fairly online. This is, what was it, about 1,300 some odd people who voted? Well, folks, you know, that's not even a little tiny bit of the entire voting population in both northern Monterey County, Santa Cruz County, but over a number of weeks, that's how many people decided that they wanted to weigh in and vote. I think basically not honoring the fact that the majority, or the majority, the people who voted chose Aptos College, which, by the way, it's that Aptos is from the Alma Mutsun language. It means the people. Frankly, I think is an excellent choice for the name of our college. I think it's fair. I think it's decent. It reflects the Alma Mutsun language and the culture. And to be honest with you, I'm going to vote no because I think we should proceed to rename this school something we can really be proud of. The people. Because it is a college of the people. That's why I ran for this seat. Because I knew it did not belong to the Cabrillo family, or any of his ancestors, or any of his descendants. And therefore, let's honor these 24 wonderful people. In fact, I'd like to shake all their hands if they were here this evening, and congratulate them for doing such a good job in coming up with 5 names that are very decent. And I'm shocked at some of the nasty remarks in the newspaper against these people, and it's particularly Sandy Leiden's comments were outrageous, just outrageous. And I reject that, and I absolutely refuse to accept criticism of these 24 fine people coming forward to perform what's probably going to be one of the most historic decisions that this college has ever made.
So I appreciate that, and just one point to clarify, Trustee Trujillo. The recommendation to defer actually comes in part from that 24-member task force. Yes, they did, you're right, they helped us get down to the 5 names that we then took out to the community. But after hearing not just the survey choices, but hearing from people how most often in the survey choices, the answers were, I'd like to keep the name Cabrillo, but if I have to change, I choose. And then all of the other comments, and some of them hearing from friends how the foundation was going to lose donors in the tune to millions of dollars potentially. It was the task force's recommendation to us, not now. Yes, you did the right thing in November by voting to change the name, but moving forward right now could potentially harm the college, which and I just want to demonstrate we're trying to find the threads of all of this to figure out how we move forward, but in a way that unifies, and that's what was behind the motion to defer. I appreciate you don't have to agree with it. I just want to make sure I clarify that bit of the task force.
You did a great job. You did a great job. See, thank you.
And just to add, I was there at the forums June 14th in Aptos, June 28th in Watsonville, July 12th in Felton. And Trustee Trujillo, the people of Watsonville some individuals expressed that they didn't want Aptos.
Yeah, I know.
So I know that you're for it, I would be against it. And it's okay to agree to disagree.
We're
It's
going
good
to
to
be
have-
doing that often on the board. Well, not often, but every so often. It's
But
okay.
be respectful and share our opinion. I'm just being mindful of what the people expressed. So, there's so many names, and some individuals expressed they didn't have no knowledge it was even happening. There was ideas of, making a decision now, or making a decision whether to postpone it. Some individuals indicated there's going to be 4 positions of Board of Trustees of having it, 4 positions available next year. That's going to be on the ballot. I just got appointed this year. I was not part of the original vote, right? And when you asked me what would I have done, I said, put it for the community, right? I had said that. You asked me, I said it. I was appointed, and I'm glad I'm here and having a seat at the table. And I'm an alumni from Cabrillo. I started attending Cabrillo when I was a freshman in high school, okay? I'm a teacher in education. I'm from this community. I live in this community. I'm proud of all the staff, classified, and everyone here that works for this great organization. So I'm just, there's so much that we need to keep in mind as well. What we value, what we prioritize to include infrastructure and all the voices, right? So just wanted to say that.
Yeah, Dan? Trustee?
Oh, yeah, I just want to say, I've been a strong defender of this. I've been on Facebook so many times I can't even count. Trying to correct a lot of the misinformation that people have promulgated. And I listen to the arguments, especially in opposition to this, and it's very hard for me as a former college debater and a college debate coach, someone who taught for 47 years persuasion and argumentation, to sit there and listen to some of the arguments and not be able to respond to them. But I guarantee you I've responded to them on Facebook a numerous amounts of time, even with some friends, or they may in fact be former friends now. But I think we need to delay. I really honestly believe we need to delay. There's a perception out there, right or wrong, there's a perception out there that we're trying to ram this through. I've corrected it a number of times. We've spent more than 3 years about this, but there's still a fairly large group of people out there in the community who think that this just sort of came out of the blue. And they're wrong,
Right.
but I don't think we're hurt by waiting, 2 or 3 months. I really don't. I mean, if it's taken more than 3 years already to get us to this point, 2 or 3 more months where we get together in the subcommittee and we talk about some of the issues. There's some real issues that I'm very concerned with, and I'd like to be on the subcommittee, by the way. I'm very concerned about the finances of it, that we don't have the money, and then to try to go forward with a name change without having the finances. I've already said publicly that I'm not in favor of that. If we don't get the money, I don't see how we can implement this. So we need to really concentrate on that. But regardless, we can discuss that in the subcommittee, on the task force, et cetera. There's a number of issues that I think are just unresolved. And I don't think we're hurt by delaying it for a few months. I really don't. And so I'm very much in favor of this, and I'd really push it forward.
You mentioned the money. At the Felton meeting, Matt, you mentioned that you contacted an attorney. I hope it was pro bono, or I'm wondering what budget line item that's gonna come out of. But, that's a concern as well. And so.
So I'd like to call the question. I think
Yeah.
we need to vote.
Yep. So we've got Money the first and second?
Trustee Rothwell and trustee Zeal. Correct?
Yep. All in favor of the
We're
motion
doing
on the
a-
floor to defer?
You don't do the resolution.
No, roll call. It's not a resolution.
It's not
Okay.
The roll call, you don't need a roll call.
I'll never get it straight.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
And
Student trustees advisory.
any abstentions? So it looks like it's a 6-2 vote with the student trustee and trustee Trujillo voting no.
6 to 1 with an advisory vote
Yeah.
against by the student trustee.